members of parliament from the opposition party ODM in his cabinet is totally insensitive to the economic times that we are living in, because it automatically occasions by-elections in those two constituencies, which was totally unnecessary, and that doesn't amount to a prudent use of public resources. Number two, Article 4, Clause 1, defines Kenya as a multi-party democracy. A multi-party democracy which, under the Elections Act, allows for formation of coalitions which act as a political party and must function as a political party. And when people go to elections, they elect candidates and parties, especially a party running on a candidate running on a party or a party fielding candidates is bound by that requirement that Kenya is a multi-party democracy. There have to be procedures to be followed before elections and after elections that underpin that multi-party democracy character of the Republic of Kenya. And we saw when President Ruto first came into office, he began by buying off political party members to entice them across the divide, irrespective of the treaties that were in place or the agreements, and irrespective of the fact that the people of Kenya, when voting, expressed themselves categorically that they were electing these people to be on the side of those parties based on the manifestos those parties had sold to them. So under that principle of the multi-party, Kenya being a multi-party democracy, it's not possible for an individual MP or a political party to just cross the floor after an election. That particular provision also does not give the president the power to set up what is calling a broad-based government. To set up a broad-based government is to violate Article 3, Clause 2, which says that any government set up or established contrary to the Constitution is null and void. And so the president, by deciding to establish a government, contrary to the principle, which is a founding principle, because the Article 4 defines the character of the Kenyan state. And by the president choosing not to honor that character, he has totally declared to us that he's going to govern this country without following the Constitution. It's clear that the president does not consider himself as bound by the Constitution, and he can do whatever serves his political interests. And I think the time has come for Kenyans not to sit on the fence anymore, but to rise up and demand that the Constitution must be respected and honored. So, my statement is that the government the president has proposed to establish, the cabinet, is totally unconstitutional. Some of the considerations of giving people jobs because they were his former girlfriends, like he said about the Tuya. At one place he said she was his former girlfriend, and therefore, how is that a qualification for a cabinet position? That's a total insult to the people of Kenya and the Republic of Kenya, and we cannot accept those kind of considerations to pollute the public space. We want people to be elected on the basis of competence, not past romantic relationships. So I am today calling on the people of Kenya, and I'm stating that my position is that that government the president is trying to establish and force down our throats is unconstitutional, even in terms of merit. If you go to Article 75, public authority, or authority vested in a state officer should be exercised in a manner that brings honor to an office. When you give a job to somebody on the basis of having been your former girlfriend and it's a public office, what honor are you bringing to that office? So I personally do not agree with that cabinet. And I think going forward, there are going to be consequential measures that will be taken. We hope that the National Assembly will reject the entire list and demand that the president sticks to his coalition side and nominates members from his coalition who are acceptable to the people of Kenya. He should not nominate people from other parties without enabling legal framework. That's an attempt to set up a government contrary to the Constitution, and which act is invalid, null and void. And the people of Kenya, just like the Gen Z have been doing, should arise and invoke their power under Article 1 of the Constitution as a sovereign people and see how we can govern this country directly without you going through representative institutions which have basically failed us and continue to fail us, and are even mocking us. Because if you look at one of the complaints about that the Gen Z had was against Murkomen. Now Murkomen is put in charge of the Gen Z. Honestly, what is going on in this country? Why should he insult us and then rub in the salt in our raw wounds? So I plead with my plea would be to the National Assembly to reject these people and to avoid taking this country in the direction the president wants to take it, where the Constitution does not matter, where lawlessness is the order of the day, and even the failure in Parliament, the incapacity of Parliament to deliver under a presidential system, the incapacity of Parliament to deliver has just been, should also be traced to that lack of respect for the Constitution, whereby MPs crossed the line and gave President Ruto a false majority in both houses. And that false majority is what he's trying to consolidate with the help of equally unprincipled political actors who are in politics purely for purposes of making money and not to serve the Republic, which actions I personally strongly condemn and I reject, and there are going to be consequential measures to be taken. And if that cabinet is established, some of us will be constrained to set up a shadow cabinet, because what will be happening now, we shall no longer be having a presidential system where you have got majority and minority sides checking the executive. We shall have a de facto parliamentary system where power emanates from the House, and therefore some of us must be constrained and will be constrained to set up a shadow cabinet that can then effectively check the excesses of this government, this mockerel that is been visited upon us, whose character we don't know, whose purpose we don't know. But as they say, if it walks like a duck, if it swims like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, then it's a duck. And given that litmus test or the smell test of reality, I'm left with no option but to say that this is a self-serving government that does not address at all the concerns that the Gen Z have been raising and have been driving them to the streets. In Kiswahili, we can say, I don't speak very good Kiswahili, but I've heard things like kuruka makojo na kukanyaga mafi. This is what President Ruto has done for us, and I think it's not acceptable. That's my statement, and I thank you very much for giving me audience at very short notice. No, the legal action is being prepared, but we have to wait for the National Assembly to express itself before we can take an action. But we are in the process of preparing a petition to be able to challenge the constitutional validity of what has just happened. I'm not a member of Azimio and I may not speak for it because I know that right now as I'm talking to you, the Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka has summoned his members. I've seen senators who belong to Wiper trooping to meet their leader. And so it looks like Azimio may have been torn asunder. But for me, I'm not a member of Azimio, I'm not a member of Kenya Kwanza. I moved in my own party. And it is within my party that I'm going to set up with like-minded Kenyans a shadow cabinet, because effectively we are now under a parliamentary system and not under a presidential system.
Does the president listen? Does he listen?
I don't know that. I think maybe not listening is you can listen and misunderstand. So I don't know that he listens, but I can't speak for him on that. I can only judge him on the actions he takes. And I think he has shown us the middle finger, because by putting Murkomen in charge of the Gen Z, the president has effectively shown us the middle finger that you can go to hell with your demands. And that's what is happening.
Thank you,
Any other question?
Thank you very much, members of the media. I have come here to address you on the announcement that has just been made by the President in relation to the reconstitution of his cabinet. You will recall that a few weeks back, young people under the name of Gen Z came back and in their numbers expressed their dissatisfaction with the manner in which the country was being governed, in particular on the excessive and what they called punitive taxation that had been meted by this government, and especially the Finance Bill 2023. In the wake of all this, they had pointed out governance issues which were directed at parts of government, especially on the cabinet. The cabinet has since been dissolved, and the president has been in the process of reconstituting this cabinet. The ODM party took a position, but before I address this in terms of the position that it took, I want to thank the young people of this country, because in the process of what seems to be uncharted territories that this country has been thrown into, we have all been put in the spotlight that all the power that we exercise, including the power to levy taxation, the powers that we exercise in terms of lawmaking and legislation, is power that is delegated, it is power that is donated, it can be reclaimed. In other words, these young people came and reclaimed their power. In other democracies, this parliament would have had to be dissolved. Fortunately, it has not been dissolved. Parliament, the executive, and this country, courtesy of these young people, have the opportunity to reconstruct and retrace its steps. I am happy that even though we may not have 100% perfection, and there may be no perfect fit, I am happy and I wish to congratulate the Honorable John Mbadi, who was my chairman or still is my chairman of ODM, for his appointment as the CS of Treasury. I wish to ask Honorable Mbadi, if and when he is confirmed, to consider and reflect on the many issues that led this parliament to be under siege, that led to the hundreds of thousands of people who were died on the streets agitating for their rights, some who were abducted. As he occupies that seat of Treasury, let him remember that this is a position of trust. Just like all other arms of government, he is occupying power that is delegated by the people of Kenya. When they delegate that under their sovereign power, they delegate it, but they also reserve the right to take it back. It is a position of trust. in which Kenyans have now or are now going to be looking at the CS of Treasury to give directions in terms of budget policy statement. How and under what circumstances should Kenyans be taxed? People have said in their numbers, and the young people have spoken, that there is wastage in government, that there is excess budgeted corruption in government, that there is a lot of things that we can do without. And in his first 100 days, I am looking forward to John Mbadi setting a new tone, because John Mbadi, as I know him, he is not Gen Z, but he is in that age bracket of people that the Gen Z can relate to. I want to extend the same congratulations to my minority leader, who is Honorable Okiya Wandai. Honorable Okiya Wandai, under very difficult circumstances from last year when we were opposing the Finance Bill 2023, and the mandamanos that ensued, led from the front and has shown that is a fearless person, a person of integrity, and a person who can lead. I hope that he will take these fearless leadership qualities, taking into account the new dispensation that has been brought about by the young people, principles that these people expect to be reflected as he takes over the position of CS of Energy. As the Member of Parliament for Mathare, I expect that there will be equity in the distribution of resources, both from Treasury and Ministry of Energy. We have people in my constituency who for years continue to remain and are in a position where they cannot access electricity. In this budget alone, because of the austerity measures, we have had to cut, and I support, monies that were supposed to be sent for electrification to our constituencies, including one of my wards in Mathare called Hospital Ward that has been without electricity connectivity, 30,000 people for a period of 2 years. So I expect that he will look at the country, balance the resources that are there in the Ministry of Energy, and ensure that these are resources that have been given in trust, and all the people of Kenya will be able to enjoy it. And so I want to support, and I want to encourage all the members of the party that there has been a little bit of uncertainty as to what the ODM party position was. Now that it has become clear that the party direction is to enter into this national unity government, I want us to pull together all our ranks and support the position of our party leader and the position that have been given to our chairman, John Mbadi, and our minority leader, Mr. Okiya Wandai. Thank you very much. End of statement.